everyone, and welcome back to another video. So I've written like 3 YouTube outlines this week and I couldn't figure out what to do this Saturday's video on. So I kind of thought, this is a photography YouTube channel, so why don't I show you some of my favorite photos that I took while I was in Vancouver a few weeks ago. Ones that you probably haven't seen on my Instagram yet, and then we can chat a little bit about creative photography composition. So before we get into the video, I just need to go grab my tea. So I'm gonna go in sort of a chronological order for the photos. So this first photo I'm gonna show you is one of downtown Vancouver. So this is actually the view from our hotel room when we were in Vancouver. And in this photo, there isn't really anything particularly a focus for this photo. It's just when we were staying in Vancouver, we were relaxing before dinner on the first night. And when I looked over, I just loved how when the sun was setting, it was painting the downtown Vancouver skyline this really pretty rose color. Like, I jumped off the couch, I grabbed my camera, and I went out on the balcony and I took this photo. Now, I'm not a crazy heights person. Our hotel room was on the 15th floor. So I just went out on the balcony and I quickly took this photo and then I stepped back without looking down. So I'm not crazy for heights. I can do heights, but I'm not crazy for them. I just loved how in this photo, the ground floor was dark, but all of the buildings were this really like pretty rose color. So the second photo I'm going to show you is one at Canada Place. And this is hands down my favorite photo from this trip. I just love how it turned out. Now, we were here on the Saturday that we were in Vancouver, and I wanted to try getting like a phone reflective shot of Canada Place. So while my fiance was paying for our lunch, I went over to the viewpoint and I tried using my phone to create a reflection of the sails. And using your phone for reflections can be a little bit tricky depending on what the scene looks like and what the landmark is you're trying to get a photo of. I think because of how far away we were from the sails, we were on the other side of like the bay, and just the fact that the sails are more like horizontal and flat instead of like vertical and tall, it just ended up being a really good scene. So I used my phone for this photo. Now, sad story, I lost the raw file of this photo. So if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen on my stories that earlier this week, my hard drive crashed. Now, 98% of my photos that were on the hard drive were backed up at other locations, whether it was my OneDrive or it was on the Creative Cloud or wherever it was. I lost 2 particular folders on my hard drive that were not backed up at other locations, and this photo ended up being one of them in one of the folders. And same thing goes for the photo before. So I do have JPEGs of the photos, however, I don't have the raw files anymore. The next photo I have for you is this one. I took this photo while we were walking in between Sunset Beach and English Bay Beach in Vancouver. I knew there was a beach close to our hotel, but I didn't know exactly where. So we just kind of went off walking towards where I thought the beach was. And so with this photo, I just loved the contrast of the red boat against the blue sky, the blue water with the rocks framing the boat. There was a lot of other boats out on the water, but they were mainly white and this one was red, so this one just ended up catching my eye more. So in order to get this photo, I did stand on some precariously looking rocks, and I crouched down to get this sort of foreground interest, and I just hoped that the boat was going to float in between the rocks that I was shooting through, and so I kind of just had to wait and hope that it would. Moving on to the next photo, when we were in Vancouver, the last night we were there, we visited Gastown, and I wanted to get some cool photos of the Gastown Steamclock. So I tried out 4 different techniques. The first one I tried was capturing sort of motion in the photos. So I set up my camera on the other side of the street, and I just waited for a car to pass, and using a slow shutter speed, I was able to capture some of the motion of the vehicle with the Gastown clock in the back. The The next technique that I tried was creating a double exposure, and if you haven't seen my Instagram reel yet about how to create a double exposure on the Olympus camera, just go check out my profile, Beautifully Wonder, on Instagram, and you can see how to do that. I also used a leaf that was on the ground for foreground interest, and I used my phone for a reflection of the face of the clock. And I think the photo with the foreground interest was probably my favorite out of the bunch. The last photo that I'm going to show you is this one of the Lionsgate Bridge at Stanley Park. So for this photo, I just walked along the seawall at Stanley Park, and I just collected a bunch of different leaves that were on the ground, and I basically just kind of used the leaves as, again, that foreground interest. Now, you've likely seen a similar photo to this one on my Instagram, and it was an orange leaf featuring the Lionsgate Bridge, and so I just liked how the different color leaves created like a different vibe for like fall and summer. This photo, along with the previous one, were not lost when my hard drive crashed. So from my Vancouver trip, the first 2 days of the trip were on my hard drive, and so I've lost those photos, but the last 2 days of my road trip were not. They were still on my memory card. I hadn't deleted them, and so they're still on my memory card, and so I still have those raw files, but the previous 2 days of raw files I did lose. So I kind of realized when I put all of these photos together that a lot of the ones that were my favorite were utilizing foreground interest, so I thought that was interesting. All of these photos were taken on the Olympus EM1 Mark II with a 12 to 40 millimeter lens. I tried really intentionally with this Vancouver road trip to get some good quality travel photos and also experiment with everything that I have been learning so far in photography. I am sad that I have lost some of the photos from this trip when my hard drive crashed, and I am really hoping that the person that I gave it to will be able to recover the files from this trip. So lesson listed is to have multiple copies of your photos and back them up properly. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. I'll leave a link in the description with the blog post from my Vancouver trip so you can go out and check out some more photos. See you in the next video.